I call Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I just want to open by saying that I support everything the Attorney-General said. And of course, I just want to highlight the fact that it became very clear to me during this process exactly why the Prime Minister entrusted our security services in the hands of Minister Chris Finlayson, our Attorney-General. I want to acknowledge the committee members, my Deputy Chair, Shane Retty, Lindsay Tish, David Bennett, Jian Young and Jamie Lee Ross. And of course, I want to acknowledge David Shearer, Phil Goff, Kennedy Graham and Fletcher Tabato. David Shearer and Phil Goff, without a doubt there was a spirit of cooperation and working together, and I think everyone on the committee understood that when it comes to national security matters that we should be working together in a spirit that is we're going to deliver a result that's what's best for the country. And it was apparent as we got moving through the select committee process that everyone had agreed and bought into that concept. There's Mr Little also, I want to acknowledge him. I did have a conversation with him during the process and it was apparent that he too saw the need for haste, which brings me to comment on a point that he made around the process being shoddy. I accept the fact that the process was truncated and that and I made a statement during it saying that it may not be a perfect process, but it's not a perfect world, and sometimes we have to react quickly to a changing security environment, and in this case we did have to react quickly. Our threat level was changed from low to very low, which is a good thing. It means that that we still are in the lower end in terms of the threat that we face. However, it also meant that we did have to make some changes. Of course, we were also incumbent on recognising and making the changes in relation to the UN resolution that was passed. I just want to, of course, we heard from the Director of the SIS, and me personally, I was extremely impressed with her, and I know that we have a world-class Director that definitely is working in the best interests of our country. And without a doubt, I want to acknowledge her and her team, who often are subject of criticism, but are working hard out there day and night to ensure and make sure that we do maintain security and that we aren't subjected to a terror attack regardless of the scale. I just want to share a couple of my own experiences in relation to try and, because one thing that did become apparent through the select committee process is that it's very difficult for people and submitters to understand exactly what we're dealing with when we can't speak openly about what the threat is, because obviously some of the evidence that we heard was heard in secret, and so it's incumbent upon all of us that we're unable to actually talk about that in public. However, and maybe Mr Shearer may take the same opportunity, is that in a previous life I was able to see personally some of the threats that we do face. And there's one story that I have related previously in this House about a situation in Iraq. It's going back a few years ago now, but it's still certainly relevant to our situation today. And that is where a supply convoy was attacked in Iraq. And during the attack, a sat phone was taken. And the sat phone was taken by Al-Qaeda terrorists, and they made several calls while they had the phone. In fact, they made well over 200, various calls around the world. But what was significant, I can't remember the exact number now, but I think it was about 15 or 16 calls were made from Iraq by an Al-Qaeda terrorist cell to New Zealand. So for us to think that we're somehow inoculated, or we're, because of our geographical location, we're insulated from these types of threats, that there is no exposure, we'd be naive to believe that. Another example that I want to use was just some information that, that was shared with me in the last week, where there was actually a list that was recovered from ISIL fighters, where they, it had a lot of information on it, including call signs, operation orders, and also nationalities of fighters that were expected or were already on the ground fighting with them. And we had the Netherlands and the UK, but also Australia, but also on that list was New Zealand. So this is information that is fresh within about a week. So I hope that it's clear that actually we did have to move quickly, we did have to act quickly. We have now got another layer of protection around us, wrapped around us as a nation, as we move into our Christmas and festive and holiday season. And I feel very proud of the fact that as a House we've been able to move the process through the Select Committee. Just very quickly, Mr Speaker, one commitment that the committee did make was this, is that every submitter that wanted to appear and make an oral submission to the committee was given the chance to do that. And the committee agreed to work long hours and into the weekend to make that happen. Finally, I just want to acknowledge our advisors and our Secretariat staff that were with us every step of the way, provided us great support and advice and the support that we needed to actually make this happen and get this back into the House. Thank you, Mr Speaker.